from an email that was sent by code enforcement.
Can't hear her either.
It's 2:00 and the Code Board of Tarpon Springs is now in session. Body call the roll, please.
Ms. Wade,
Present.
Mrs. Archer,
Here.
Mr. Weeks,
Here.
Mr. Kramer is absent. Ms. Norfleet,
Here.
Ms. Tilly, Mr. Perfidio,
Yep.
and Mr. Stamms.
Here.
That completes your roll call.
The board attorney will lead us in the pledge. Invocation.
Father in heaven, we seek blessings on the tasks before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. We gather to make decisions for our community. May we only use our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is in the best interests of the city of Tarpon Springs and our fellow citizens. This we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just as I was remembering, everybody, please remember to turn off your cell phones. If there's anyone here that intends to speak at the meeting, we need to swear you in. If you're on Zoom, we'll swear you in when your case comes up.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give us whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
It is the intention of this board to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Tarpon Springs by providing an equitable, effective, and inexpensive method of enforcing various codes within the city of Tarpon Springs. Any aggrieved party may appeal a final administrative order of this board to the circuit court. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 days of the execution of the order to be appealed. Florida Statute 286.0105 requires any party appealing a decision of this board to have a record of the proceedings to support such an appeal. The procedure of this board is as follows. First, the city presents its witnesses and exhibits, after which the alleged violator is able to ask the city's witnesses any specific questions regarding their testimony. Secondly, the alleged violator is allowed to make a presentation and present his or her witnesses and exhibits. Then the city can question the alleged violator's witnesses. After both rounds of testimony, both on the part of the city and on the part of the alleged violator, each party is asked to give a closing statement, first by the city and then by the alleged violator. After those three steps are taken, this board will close the public portion of the case to discuss it and take appropriate action. And we've already had the witnesses sworn in, and we've turned off our phones, and we do have one announcement. This will be the last meeting that is broadcast on Zoom, or you can come with only on Zoom or come on your phone. I'll remind you again at the end, but this will be the last of our Zoom meetings. Here, for going forward, everything will be in person. Thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda? Beth, are there any changes to the agenda?
The only changes are the first case 21-800000132 is complied and we won't need to hear that one. And I believe that's it.
We appreciate compliance. Thank you. So our first case is case number 2 on your agenda. It's 20-800000549 963 Sunrise Drive, Sway 2014-1 Borrower LLC, RA Corporation Services. There's no one here for this case. Is there anyone on Zoom for this case?
If anyone is online for this case, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands for this case.
Since there's no one here to object, we'll see your documentation and Bobby will enter it into the record. Go ahead, please, Beth.
Thank you. My name is Beth Hughes. I'm the FACE Certified Code Inspector for the City of Tarpon Springs. This is case number 20-800-00549 for 963 Sunrise Drive for Sway 2014-1 Borrower LLC. Exhibit 1 are all the photographs. Exhibit 2 are all the notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit 3 are the administrative documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 is the affidavit of posting and the copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are the exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested and first-class mail. And thank you for already accepting the exhibits into the record as evidence. We have had contact by the contractor, not by the actual owner. And I conducted the initial inspection on September 17th of 2020. Per the building department and utility departments, they had not been connected to sewer. This entire street actually had the sewer connection, sewer line, put in by the city of Tarpon Springs. And they were all given notice that they had a year to connect to sewer. Once they did not, then they became code cases. And that's how this case initially began. So they had already been given a year to comply. Let's see here. So on September 22nd, a notice of violation was mailed and the green card was returned with a stamped signature. On January 15th, 2021, we conducted a reinspection. The property had not been connected to sewer and no permit had been obtained. On January 15th of 2021, a final notice of violation was mailed and the green card again was returned signed with a stamped signature. On February 24th, 2021, a reinspection was conducted, and per the building department, no sewer connection permit had been obtained. So we decided to send a notice of hearing for April. On February 26th of 2021, the notice of hearing was mailed, and the green card again was returned with a stamped signature. On March 26th, a sign was posted, and an affidavit of posting was signed. On April 6, 2021, we conducted a reinspection and the sewer connection had actually been completed, but we were still waiting for the complete approval of the final inspection for the permit number 21-551. It had been partially approved, but not completed. And as a result, we decided to defer the case to give them a chance to finish the permit. So on April 12th, 2021, the deferral hearing notice was sent and the green card was returned signed. On April 30th of 2021, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting was signed. So on April 29th of 21, we received a phone call by the contractor, and they were under the impression that the final inspection was completed. However, they did speak to the building department and found out that the septic still needed to get approval through the, to get the final completion of the approval, including the tank abandonment through the county, as well as replacing the sod or seeding the ground. The contractor was given that information and was advised that we had deferred it to the following month. So on May 12th of 2021, per the building department, they're still only halfway there. They did receive the abandonment approval, but they have not scheduled the final inspection and therefore were not in compliance. So I do believe that they more than likely are going to come into compliance, but because it has taken a while, I decided to go ahead and bring it to code board just to make sure that if they didn't finish it, there would be a consequence to it. So basically what I'm asking for is that the property to be found in violation of City Code 20-22 for the mandatory connection. And that concludes my testimony.
Is there a house on this property?
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know what the rules are. Can this tank be sealed? Does it have to be removed? What are the rules for this?
So I don't know the specifics, but they basically have to have the tank abandonment completed through the county, which my last inspection note, I believe, said that they did complete that. They did receive the abandonment approval, and this is as of May 12th, but they still have not finished the final inspection through the city. So that's really the last thing they have to do to come into compliance.
Yeah, Chair, what they'll do is they'll actually break up the bottom of the tank, backfill it with gravel or something like, so this way it doesn't retain water. And obviously the county has to say, hey, it's been done or been completed by someone. So yeah,
Thank
you
you.
don't have to physically remove the tank.
The owner lives in Arizona. Does someone occupy this residence?
I believe they have a tenant.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Would anybody would like to make a motion?
I move that based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented and law, that all the time of the alleged violations, sections 20-22 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect, and the respondent was therefore in violation thereof.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Bobby, roll call, please.
Mr. Stammes?
Yes.
Mr. Perfidio?
Aye.
Mrs. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Following the passage of that motion, does anybody like to make a second motion?
I make the second motion. I move that the respondent shall have until June the 14th to bring the property into compliance with Code Section 20-22 or suffer a fine of $100 per day for each day thereafter, that the respondent remain in violation of said code sections.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Bobby, roll call, please. Or unless there's discussion, I'm sorry. Bobby?
Mr. Stammes?
Yes.
Mr. Perfidio?
Aye.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'm sure you'll send information to the people. Thank you. Item number 3. 20-8 000053 420 East Tarpon Avenue, Joshua A. Runkle and Brandy Demetrio Runkle. Is there anyone on Zoom for this case, please? If you'd like to join us via Zoom, raise your hand, please.
At this time, we do not have any raised hands.
Much? He's not here for this case, is he?
No, that's what we were
Okay.
double checking. Thank you for
Thank
asking.
you. Beth, if you'd like to make the city's presentation, please.
Okay, my name is Beth Hughes. I'm the FACE certified inspector for the city of Tarpon Springs. This is case number 21-800-00053 for 420 East Tarpon Avenue. Under Joshua, the name is Joshua Runkle or Brandy D'Amico Runkle. Exhibit 1 contains all the photos. Exhibit 2, all the notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit 3 includes the administration documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 is the affidavit of posting and copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested and first-class mail. And please accept all the exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you, Bobby. I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, so we have not had any contact with the owner for this property. On January 26, 2021, I conducted an initial inspection. I verified with planning and zoning that they did not have a chicken permit. I knocked on the door and waited several minutes before leaving. I noted that there was a coop in the backyard and sorry, let me start over. I was informed that there were chickens running on Tarpon Avenue, and that's the reason why I went. So when I narrowed it down to this yard because the chickens returned to that yard, there was the coop and they seemed to live there. I also spoke with a neighbor who said that they believed that the chickens were there. So so on January 26, 2021, a notice of violation was mailed and the mail was returned insufficient address. On February 17th of 2021, per planning and zoning, no permit had been applied for, so we sent the final notice of violation. So on February 18th of 2021, the final notice of violation was mailed. And again, the mail was returned insufficient address. On March 9th of 2021, I conducted a reinspection. Since we hadn't heard from them, I did do a physical inspection as well. I walked behind, there's an alley that runs behind the house. So I walked behind the house and confirmed the coop was still there. And I did still see chickens. On March 15th of 2021, the notice of hearing was mailed and the mail was returned insufficient address. On March 26th of 2021, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting was signed. On April 6th of 2021, planning and zoning let us know that the residents had applied for the permit, for the chicken permit. As a result, on April 12th of 2021, we sent a deferral hearing notice, which was again returned signed insufficient address. On April 28th of 2021, I conducted a reinspection, and per planning and zoning, the permit was submitted incomplete, therefore was not processed all the way through. Planning and zoning had called and left a voicemail for the resident, but had not been contacted back as of yesterday. On April 30th of 2021, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting was signed. And on May 12th, 2021, we conducted the final inspection, and per planning and zoning, the residents still had not completed the permit process and had not returned any of the phone calls. So I'll go ahead and share our exhibits. Yeah, I apologize. This one picture is sideways. You can see that the chickens are there's two chickens there in the yard. This next picture is basically, you can see that there's one of the coops in the back by the chair. In this picture, I know it's hard to see, but there's a bigger coop, actually. It's very large. It's by the front of the boat. That kind of window looking thing is actually part of the coop. And you can see the stairs that the chickens can walk up into the coop. And that's all the exhibits I have. So ultimately, I'm asking for the code board members to find this property in violation of City Code 4-3, which basically requires for them to complete that chicken permit. And that concludes my testimony.
Anybody have questions for Beth?
How will you let them know if the address is not correct every time?
Well, basically, we're required to send it to what's in the property appraiser website. I do believe they must be aware of the issue because they did make the application for the chicken coop permit. They finally did do that. And planning and zoning has attempted to call them to let them know that it's not complete and they need more information.
City allows chickens, but no roosters. You didn't see roosters.
Correct. The city allows 4 hens and but you do have to get the coop has to be built a particular way with proper setbacks and particular rules. And so that's why they require the permit for the coop.
And this is a rental property?
I believe it is. I believe that it might have several units. I honestly don't know because I've never spoken to a tenant or to the property owner. I did knock on the door the first time I went. I think I failed to mention that. I waited several minutes and no one ever came to the door.
But the owner is responsible, not the tenant. And
Correct.
that's who we're addressing.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And they're running free right now, is that correct?
When
Sometimes.
the first inspection, they were on Tarpon Avenue. I have not seen them without anywhere other than the yard, but yes, you are correct. They're not supposed to be roaming free. And they have been roaming free in the yard every time I've gone.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light of it, but it's funny. I'm sorry. The chickens running around town. I'm sorry.
I don't want them to get hit.
That'll ruffle some feathers, huh?
Pardon?
That'll ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, we don't want to ruffle any feathers. That's a good one. There's no one on Zoom, so would anybody like to make a motion, please?
Yes. I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented and law, all the time of and law.
It's a
that-
typo there. It should say at instead of all.
Yeah, that all the time of the alleged violation, section 4-3 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Spring was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Ms. Norfleet seconded. Bobby roll.
So he
there's no-
seconded, I apologize.
Mrs. Norfleet,
Thank you. Sorry, I was writing myself a note.
Roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Stammis,
yes.
Mr. Perfidio,
Aye.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
and Ms. Wade.
Yes. The first motion is passed. If someone would like to make a motion in the penalty, please.
I move that the respondent shall have until June the 14th to bring the property into compliance with Code Section 4-3 or suffer a fine of $50 a day for each day thereafter. The respondent remains in violation thereof.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Bobby, roll call, please.
Mr. Stammis,
No.
Mr. Perfidio,
Aye.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 4, 21-800000189, 1116 Gulf Oaks Drive. The owner is London Eves. Is there anyone here on Zoom for that case?
If anyone here is online for this case, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Thank you. Beth, I'll make the city's presentation then.
Okay, so my name is Beth Hughes. I'm the FACE Certified Code Inspector for the City of Tarpon Springs. This is case number 21-800000189 for 1116 Gulf Oaks Drive. The name under is London Eves. Exhibit 1 contains all the photographs. Exhibit 2 are all notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearings. Exhibit 3 includes all the administrative documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 contains the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Excuse me. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County property appraiser and tax collector databases. All notice of violation and notice of hearings are sent, return receipt requested, and first-class mail. And please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you, Bobby. You'll do that. Thanks.
Okay, so we have not had contact with the owner for this case. On March 25th of 2021, I conducted an initial inspection, and at that point, just the trailer was parked in the front yard. On March 26th of 2021, the notice of violation was mailed. No mail was returned. However, the USPS tracking shows that it's in transit to the next facility. On April 5th of 2021, I conducted a reinspection, and the trailer was again parked in the front. On April 6th of 2021, a final notice of inspection was mailed and a green card was returned, signed COVID-19. On April 23rd, 2021, I conducted a reinspection. The trailer was still in the yard and a small excavator was parked in the yard as well. There was a pile of dirt also, not a huge significant pile, but I did double check with the building department to ensure that didn't require any kind of fill permit, and they stated it did not. On April 28th of 2021, a notice of hearing was mailed. No mail was returned. Per the United States Postal Tracking Service, it said notice left, no authorized recipient was available. On April 30th of 2021, a sign was posted and the affidavit of posting was signed. On May 12th, I conducted a final inspection. The trailer and the tractor were out of public view. However, this has been an ongoing issue and the second case for the same violation. Therefore, I chose to ask you to establish this violation for this property. I'll go ahead and show you the exhibits.
Bobby, did I remember to ask you to accept the exhibits?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, so this picture here is showing basically the trailer parked in the front yard. A trailer can be parked in a residential zone. It just has to be either on the side of the house and not 2 feet from the lot line, and it can also be parked in the back and it's in the front. We don't need this picture. And then this last picture shows you, this has been ongoing. Like I said, this is the second case for the same issues. I had complied the first one and not brought it to you, where the trailer and the tractor, which I do believe it's undersized from being officially a commercial tractor, they just need to park it in the back out of public view, and that would keep it in compliance. So those are the two exhibits. So again, it was in compliance on yesterday, but because this has been an ongoing issue and for all the re-inspections, which were two re-inspections in between taking it to code board on the final inspection, as well as the previous case, I do want to establish this for violation of City Code 42.00, which is the parking or storing of recreational vehicles in a residential neighborhood, so that if we do have this violation again, they would be a repeat violator. And that concludes my testimony.
So they are now in compliance.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions? For
I
her?
had a question. It's for recreational vehicles. Is this considered a recreational vehicle?
The
Construction vehicle.
well, because it's under a certain weight, it actually is not considered a commercial vehicle. However, trailers and those type of vehicles are considered under the code as recreational vehicle. Yeah, I know, but yeah, a trailer is considered a recreational vehicle.
I was thinking more of the Bobcat sitting next to it.
That's a good question. I did look that it's not considered commercial, because I think commercial, it has to weigh 5,000 pounds, or excuse me, more than that. And this one only weighed 5,000 pounds. For the first code case that I had, I actually spoke with them at length about what they were allowed to do.
How's it licensed? Is the tag a commercial tag or is it a regular person's tag on the back?
That really doesn't apply to the code, the tag. So I don't know. I didn't check.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion? This is to establish a violation that is currently in compliance.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented by law that at the time the alleged violation, section 42.00 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Spring was in full effect. At the time of the violation, the respondent was in violation of said code. However, they are now in compliance.
Second.
Thank you. Bobby, roll call.
Mr. Stammes,
Yes.
Mr. Perfidio,
Aye.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Quaid.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So I did pull up the code if you want me to read that to you. So recreational vehicles shall include but not be limited to any motorized home, travel trailer, small cargo trailer, boat trailer, houseboat, horseman slide-in, or pop-up camper, collapsible trailer, and similar vehicles. And being that it didn't fall under the definition of commercial, I considered it as similar.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Item number 5 is next. Is the complied applicable to number 5? It's over to the side, and I wanted to confirm that complied for 8/2/2021 pertain to item number 5.
The violation is in compliance, but it is a repeat case, repeat violator case.
Thank you. Next is item number 5 on your agenda. It's a repeat violator, 21-800000197 1673 Sea Breeze Drive, Peter Tumalo. Is there anyone on Zoom for that case?
Yes, if you can raise your hand, we'll allow you in to talk. And we do have a raised hand for this one.
We'll need to swear them in.
If you can unmute yourself and state your name and address.
Pete Timillo, 1673 Seabreeze Drive, Tarpon Springs, Florida, 34689.
You want to swear him in, Bobby?
Bobby, will you swear him in?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir.
Beth? Do you have evidence to submit?
We will, so I don't know if he has any objections to it.
Mr. Tumalo, I'm sorry, I'm saying your name wrong, but
Don't worry about it. It's not a problem.
If the city will have evidence to submit, do you have any legal objection to them submitting that evidence?
No.
Thank you.
Okay. My name is Beth. I'm the FACE certified code inspector for the city of Tarpon Springs. This is a repeat violation case number 21-800000197 for 1673 Seabreeze Drive. The repeat violation case numbers are 21-800000154 in violation of City Code 25.02. Another case was for 20-800-00735 in violation of 25.02, and case number 20-800-00229 in violation of City Code 25.02. Exhibit 1 going to the board members are all the photographs. Exhibit 2 are all the notices, to include the notice of violations and notice of hearings. Exhibit 3 includes all the administrative documents to include the case summary, previous board orders, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Exhibit 5 is the affidavit of prosecution costs. All photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violation and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested in first class mail. And please accept all the exhibits into the record as evidence. Okay, so we have had contact.
Hold on a second, Beth. I did not hear. The evidence has been tendered. Did you receive the evidence?
I'll confirm that. I think we did it ahead of time on
Okay,
this one.
all right, I'm sorry. I just want to make
He
sure.
had no objection.
Correct. Okay.
Okay, so we have had contact with Mr. Tamillo by email and I believe phone calls. On March 29th of 2021, we conducted the initial inspection. I spoke with Mr. Bill Lapel. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. He was there at the property and he told me verbally that he had rented the house for 1 week through Airbnb. And at that time, the advertisement was changed back to a 6-night minimum. On March 29th of 2021, we mailed the repeat violation notice of hearing. And we also emailed it to the property owner and the mail was returned unclaimed. On April 7th of 2021, we received additional complaint. On April 7th, 2021, we conducted a reinspection. The advertisement was still showing a minimum of 6 days. I did go by the property on that day and I did not observe anyone at the property at that time. On April 13th of 2021, we received an additional complaint. And on April 19th of 2021, we received another additional complaint. On April 19th of 2021, I also conducted a reinspection. We received an email from the owner stating that the ad had been changed back to 42 days on April 2nd. We had a screenshot as late as April 7th showing a minimum of 6 nights. So I determined that I would put the case in compliance as of as of April 8th, 2021. On April 30th, we posted the sign and the affidavit of posting was signed. So let me go ahead and pull up my exhibits. Okay, so basically the first exhibit is just showing that this had a posting a limited, or excuse me, a 6-night minimum stay. So if you see under select dates, and I'm sorry, it's so small in the middle of the page, select dates, it says 6 nights. Okay. And again, the next exhibit is just another screenshot showing again where you can see like at the bottom of the page, a minimum of 6 nights again. The next exhibit is just showing different reviews. One says 2 weeks in Tarpon, which is for less than the 6 weeks required minimum. The next is just another 2 reviews in February, which would show that if there were 2 in 1 month, it couldn't be for more than 6 weeks, or 6 weeks, I should say. Here's another one showing, again, a minimum of 6 nights. Another one of 6 nights, and these were on different occasions. Okay, and lastly, this is the screenshot taken on April 12th, showing that it was changed to the 42 nights. And so so basically what I'm asking the board members is to find the property in violation of City Code 25.02. And the property, the city contends that the property was in violation from the initial inspection as of March 29th and is in compliance as of April 8th for a total of 10 days. And again, the reason for April 8th is we did give the property owner the benefit of the doubt, since we no longer had a screenshot past April 7th showing that it was less than the 6 weeks. And that concludes my testimony.
Peter, do you have questions for Beth?
Yes, I do.
This
So,
will just questions, and then you'll get to make your case after.
no problem. So Beth, what websites are you pulling those from? Do you know?
I believe Airbnb and VRBO.
Okay, and per our previous cases, you know that I don't deal with them, correct? I deal with Evolve, so you've actually got to go to Evolve's website. I can't control what VBRO or Airbnb does, but I can control what Evolve does. I have
Well,
no
if my
relationship with Evolve. I have no relationship with Airbnb or VBRO.
So my position, Mr. Tamillo, is that you're the property owner and it's up to you to have your property in compliance. And every time you have made the request to change it, it has been changed back to the 42 days.
Exactly. Yeah, and in recognition of that, the websites you're going to are websites that I have no control over. I can't control what they do when they copy off of Evolve's website, but I can control Evolve. And as I had mentioned before, part of the problem with Evolve is their website has trouble with the 42 days because it's
Sounds
not
like
something
you're
that you-
testifying now. Let's stick this part to the questions, and then we'll get to the testimony part.
Sure. That's
Do
the
you have any-
questions. The other part is, there are other homes on Seabreeze Drive that.
Question doesn't start with, it starts with who, what, when, why, where, how.
Who, what, why, when, where, how. Okay, and you're also concerned about the health, safety, and welfare of Tarpon Springs. So why aren't the other homes on Seabreeze Drive that are short-term rentals that are on VBRO? And I sent you some documentation yesterday that you should have, or possibly early this morning. I don't remember exactly when. Why aren't those homes being fined? And why aren't those owners being brought to court? Because the issue that we have here has to do with one neighbor, and one neighbor only, that ever complains about my home.
I object to that question and the basis
Peter, it
of
doesn't matter
relevance.
what somebody else is doing. This hearing is about your property and your following the rules of Tarpon.
Even though those rules aren't applied consistently.
Sir,
Even though those rules aren't applied consistently.
I'm going to call you out of order on that part. Would you like to present your case?
My case is that you're fining me for something that I do not have control over. What I do have control over, every time it's been brought to my attention, I act immediately and I resolve it. But when you go to websites that I have no control over and find me for something that I have no control over, that creates an unfair situation. Given light that there are other homes on Seabreeze Drive, one right next door to Mr. Pravidio's, that does short-term rentals. And I've provided you documentation to show it. So my question is why am I being singled out?
We don't have evidence that shows only you are being singled out, so I guess that doesn't matter. What do you have to say what do you have to say about 2 rentals in February?
The 2 rentals in February. The 2 rentals in February were rentals that were previous that I wasn't going to ruin the people's vacations. Okay. So I did let them come. Okay. But I haven't done that since. The reality of it is that brings money into Tarpon Springs. That benefits the health, safety, and welfare of Tarpon Springs by bringing money into the city. Okay. But you guys have the 42
Your testimony
days,
is that you disregarded the rules?
Excuse me?
Your testimony is that to make your people happy, you disregarded the Tarpon laws?
I was at that point when those rentals were done. Okay. I was not aware of the Tarpon rules. Once you made me aware of them, I changed them, but I was not going to ruin people's vacations. Okay. And cancel out on them last minute and force them to try to find something else. And you're asking me if I'm disregarding. What about Mr. Pravidio disregarding the home right next door to his home?
Mr. Pravidio.
I understand that, but when you question me and you're telling me I'm disregarding something, your board is disregarding something as well.
Thank you.
I object to that.
Do you have any further presentation? Beth, do you have questions for him?
Hold on. Hold on. Yes, I do. Do you have the packet that I gave you?
We have the packet, and I will object to the packet on the same basis as of relevance.
Okay, Beth, you need to hand that to the chair, that packet that Mr. Tamillo has tendered. And the chair needs to take a look at that and make a determination based upon your objection of it being irrelevant. In any response that Mr. Tamillo has, the chair needs to decide whether or not that objection is going to be sustained or overruled. So, Madam Chair, you make that call.
Yes,
And you have a packet of information in front of you. This is information. How many pages are there, Mrs. Wade? Roughly?
there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of paper that do not have an address on them or a date or an indication of there's a corner where it does say per night.
Okay, I just want to make sure that Mr. Tamillo understands what you're looking at so that, Mr. Tamillo, you submitted 6 pieces of paper to the code enforcement officer. Is that what we're talking about?
I submitted 7, sir.
7?
Yes, sir. The first one should be one that in the upper left-hand corner says VBRO, and it's a map of Tarpon Springs with blue dots on it that show all the different short-term rentals. And it's clearly, you can see Piney Point there with 4 homes on it, one of which is mine.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that this isn't relevant because any other homes or cases will be dealt with on their own merit, and we're only here to deal with your case. It's sort of like saying everybody else was speeding, officer, but the officers only pulled you over. You're still guilty of speeding. So I'm going to say that this evidence is not going to be considered in this record. Thank you.
Okay, so the objection then is sustained. So Mr. Tamillo, you can continue on with your case. Those documents will not be, although it's been proffered and it's part of the record, it is not going to be evidence that the city is, the code enforcement board is going to use in making its determination.
Okay, but it is part of the record, correct?
Yes, sir. It's going to be,
Okay.
it's going to be
Okay.
marked as being tendered but not received.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, my concern again is that I'm following the rules. I'm doing the best I can. I can't control everything that Evolve does, but when it's brought to my attention, I resolve it immediately. And the documentation that you're using is from other sources with the exception of Evolve. You're going to VBRO, Airbnb, whoever else might be out there, but I don't deal with those people. I deal with Evolve. And when I'm made aware of it, I take care of it right away.
It's for Peter.
Excuse me?
Hang on just a moment, sir.
She asked if I have questions for you, Mr. Tamillo. Yes, I do have a question. Basically, Mr. Lepel told me that he was renting the house for 1 week on March 29th. Was that correct?
On March 29th, hold on a second.
He was at your home, and when I asked him, he stated that he was renting your house for 1 week through Airbnb and that he had spoken with you.
That would be correct.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Does the board have any questions?
Yes, he has come before the board 4 different times for this, for different,
He's had 3 previous
yes,
short-term rental cases. This, which is actually under code 25.02, which is where,
for the same thing.
right. And this would be the 4th.
Mhm. Anybody have any idea why there's such a problem with the different websites? I mean, do they just pick up what they want and put what they want on there, or why is he having a problem with the websites?
I
You
can't
probably
answer
can't.
that. I've never heard of that issue before. But I do know that someone stated they were there for 1 week and Mr. Tamillo confirmed that they were.
That's all the questions I have.
Would you like to summarize your case?
No, I think I've covered everything. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Peter, would you like to summarize your case, please?
Sure. Twofold. One, I can't control what any website does besides what Evolve does. They're the ones that I deal with. The people that were there for a week had made their reservation in January. Okay, long before we'd gone to court, I think the second time. And I was not in a position to cancel out on their vacation. I would have put them in a very bad position. I put myself in a bad position as it was. But at the end of the day, and you've seen it, I have neighbors that actually compliment my home, compliment the people that were staying there for 1 week. The only person that ever complains is one neighbor down the street that has nothing better to do with her time. There are other homes on the street, and I understand that that doesn't make a hill of beans, but nobody complains, nor does this woman that continually turns me in complain. She's turned me in when my neighbors, Tula Manglis, okay, Gary Upchurch, have parked in my driveway. Anytime there's a car in my driveway, she calls and complains. I don't know why she's allowed to get away with it, but regardless, I can't control other websites. Okay, I freely admit that that one gentleman was there for a week. I wasn't going to ruin his vacation, and that's pretty much where I'm at. You know, I'm doing my best I can to acknowledge when anything happens, to show up here, to do what's right. And it's very frustrating because I'm doing what's right, other people are doing what's wrong, yet they're not the ones being turned in. Makes no sense to me. And you've seen letters from my neighbors that compliment my home. Nobody's calling to complain about the
We don't
health,
have any
safety, or
evidence.
welfare of Tarpon Springs in regards to my home.
The public
All I have
portion,
to say.
public portion of the case is now closed. I'm ready to entertain a motion from the board. And Beth, let's get straight. If we are, this is a repeat violator who has complied, correct?
Yes.
So yeah, I'll repeat again. So my contention is that they were in violation from the initial inspection on March 29th until the last day that until April 8th, which by April 8th, I believe that the renter that was there for a week was gone. And it's the last time we can confirm that the advertisement was less than the minimum of 6 weeks. And that is how I came to those dates.
And the previous fine was $100.
There were 3 previous cases. The first one was $50 a day. The second was $25. And the third was $100. And I believe these are on your summaries as well.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll make a motion. You ready?
Would you like to make a motion?
I move that based on testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, that the respondent was in violations of sections 25.2 of the Tarpon Springs City Code from March 29th, 21 until April 8th, 21, and a fine of $100 per day for 10 days or a fine of $1,000. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $114.50 for the cost that occurred in prosecuting the case.
Second, anybody second?
I second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Stammis,
No.
Video,
Aye.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes,
Ms. Wade.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Tumalo, an order from the board will be issued within 10 days and mailed to you. Do you need to summarize further, Mr. Trask?
I just would remind Mr. Tumillo that every time he violates this code section, it could be considered another repeat violation, fined up to $500 per day for every day that the violation continues. The order will be issued within 10 days and mailed to you at the address listed by the property appraiser and tax collector's offices. And if you have any questions as to what you need to do to come into compliance, you can call code enforcement after this meeting.
Thank you. Next item on your agenda is item 6. It's also a repeat violator. The case number is 21-8000212, 303 South Pinellas Avenue, Sanford Buell. I think it's represented by Anwar Koja. And he's here with us today. Thank you.
Representing for him.
when we remove this.
And if you'll step to the microphone, I can hear you better. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Anwar Khoja, he's out of town. My name is Mahmoud Chaudhry. I'm representing for him.
You're representative for him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we need to get him sworn in.
We need to swear him in.
Oh,
So will you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am. I do.
Thank you, sir.
Could you spell your name for us, please? The first and last name separately.
He's Mahmoud, Mahmud, and last name is Chaudhry, Chowdhury.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
The city will present their case and then you can ask questions and then you'll get your time, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
May we ask them if he has any objections to the evidence?
Have evidence to submit for us? You have evidence?
Yes,
for us?
ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any objection, any legal objection to the city submitting the evidence that you've already been presented with? She's just going to show us the same stuff that you got.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bobby, you'll accept that? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my name is Beth Hughes. I'm the FACE Certified Code Inspector for the City of Tarpon Springs. This is case number 21-800-00212 for 303 South Pinellas Avenue under Sanford Fuel LLC. The repeat violation case is case number 19-800-00268. It was in violation of 8-22, 8-40, and 8-52. Exhibit 1 includes all the photographs. Exhibit 2 contains all the notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearings. Exhibit 3 contains all the administrative documents to include the case summary, previous board orders, and property appraiser and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 contains the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Exhibit 5 contains all the affidavit of the prosecution costs. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violation and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested and first class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you. Bobby will do that for us, please. Could you confirm with me which violation code numbers you were citing?
Actually, I have for this case, when I get to the end, I'll make this clear again, but I'm going to ask for the city code 8-22, excuse me, to be found in violation is the only one. When I read the other case numbers, that's what they were found in violation, which includes 8-22 as the repeat violator case.
Okay, I just got confused. That's not the first time.
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me. I'm going to take a drink real quick. Okay, so we have had contact with the owner by phone. On March 31st of 2021, we conducted an initial inspection. I verified there was trash and debris in the back and 2 totes were being stored in the front. On April 5th of 2021, a repeat violation notice of hearing was mailed. And the notice, and also we mailed a notice of violation as well because there were other violations that had not been cited previously. Let's see here. The mail was returned refused. On April 5th, we received a phone call. We spoke to the property owner and advised them of all the violations. He let us know that he would have a crew come out and take care of the issues as soon as possible. On April 6th, we received a phone call. The property owner called and advised the property was ready for reinspection. I wasn't able to do the reinspection, however, until April 9th, and the repeat violation was in compliance at that time, but the 2 totes were still out front. On April 22nd, I conducted another reinspection. The 2 totes had been removed, and the repeat violations were already complied prior to that point. On April 30th of 2021, a sign was posted and the affidavit of posting was signed. So I am looking to have the property found to be in violation of City Code 8-22 only from the period of the initial inspection on March 31st. And I did put it in compliance as of April 6th, which was the date they told us it was ready for reinspection. And I did confirm that on April 9th. And I'll go ahead and bring up the exhibits now.
So 6 days.
For a total of 6 days. Yes, ma'am. Okay. So this basically is just showing one picture of the trash and debris that was on the property. Another tote behind the shed. And then these are 2 totes that were being stored in the front. Again, this was actually, I probably didn't even need to show this picture. This was a new violation that did come into compliance, and I am not asking for this one to be established today. Just 8-22 for the trash. Okay, so actually that does conclude my testimony. I'm just asking for city code for them to be a repeat violation in code of 8-22 from the period of 3/31 to 4/6. And that concludes my testimony.
Does the board have any questions for Beth? Mr. Mama, do you have any, this will be just questions for her, and then you get to make your case after. Did you have a question for
Oh,
her?
ma'am, I do not have any
Okay.
question.
Then you get to, you can stay at the microphone. Now you get to tell us your side. You can present your case.
Okay, I do. Good afternoon.
Good
I
afternoon.
mean, we have been trying to work with the city. Anytime we get a violation, as soon as we know, we work. We had a number of violations in the property. We took care of everything. I sent a crew to clean the whole property. Somehow they missed those portion that came into question today. And for the tote, we didn't know somebody stored the tote. So as soon as I came to know, I couldn't get rid of it because I don't know exactly what it was inside. So it took me a couple of days to find out the owner of the tote and get rid of those. And now I have a landscaping crew. They come twice in a week and keep the property nice and clean. But they worked before, but somehow they left those areas. But we were always cooperative. I mean, as soon as we get a complaint or any issues came up, we tried to fix it right away. But there was, on this case, there was a communication gap. The owner of the property, he didn't let me know in time. So it was a couple of days late. Thank you.
You can stay there for a second. Does the board have any questions for the owner? Beth, do you have questions for him?
No, I don't.
Do you want to summarize?
Sure. So basically, it was in violation of the trash. They have always been quick to react and to respond when we have asked them. We're just trying to keep it and have them be proactive. This is a particular area that the city is really looking to try to clean up the area. There's been a lot of issues, not just their property, but all the properties in that area. So we are just mostly asking that you're proactive rather than reactive to it, where it's a continual
Sometimes
process.
problem is that when the wind blows, trash and all the debris from the other property, it blows to our property. Since we don't have any guard or any fence around, but I inspect now, like after your complaint, I inspect periodically, and my landscaping people, they come twice in a week to clean the property.
Thank you.
That sounds like a summary from you. Did you have anything further?
No, ma'am.
Okay. The public portion of the case is now closed. Board, I'm ready to hear a motion, and then we can discuss if you need to.
I moved that based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, the respondent was in violation of sections 8-22 of the City Code of Tarpon Springs from the dates of March 31st to April 6th, total of 6 days, and a fine of $50 per day for the 6 days. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $88.50 for the costs it incurred in prosecuting the case.
Do I hear a second? Motion's died for a lack of a second. Do I hear another motion?
I move that based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented by law that the respondent was in violation of 8-22 of the Tarpon Springs City Code from March the 31st, 2021 until April the 6th, 2021, and a fine of $25 a day for 6 days, a fine of $150. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $88 and costs that occurred in prosecuting the case.
Can I correct it to 8850?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. If there's no discussion, roll call, please, Bobby.
Mr. Excuse me, Mr. Stammis,
Yes.
Mr. Presidio,
Aye.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Yes.
The motion carries.
The attorney will summarize for you what the findings are. And I always think it's good when you make an appearance and let us know that you're trying to keep things nice. Mr. Trask.
Sir, the property owner, Sanford Fuel LLC, has been found in violation of Section 8-22 of the city code from March 31st until April 6, 2021. The board has assessed a fine of $25 a day for those 6 days. The board also awarded the city $88.50 in prosecuting the case. An order will be entered within the next 10 days and provided to the property owner listed at the property appraiser record address. If you have any questions and that will be done within the next 10 days. If you have any questions as to what you need to do in the future to keep the property in compliance, you can call code enforcement staff after this hearing. Any questions?
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Items 7 and 8, which are both affidavits of non-compliance. First one is item 20-8000694, 724 Seminole Boulevard, ERC Homes Capital, Gerald D. Ellenberg. Is there anyone here on Zoom for that case?
We do not have anyone present in Zoom at this point. And we do not have anyone available on Zoom at this point.
Beth, would you like to present?
It could just be a
on
motion to accept the affidavit of non-compliance.
All righty. Can I hear a motion?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that the resident respondent failed to timely comply with this board's prior order within the time prescribed and to award the city $149 for the cost incurred in prosecuting this case.
Second.
There was a second, Mr.
Second.
Perfidio, I think I heard.
Yep.
Is there any discussion from the board?
Call the question?
Yes, sir.
Call the question. Can we
If there's
vote?
no discussion, I'll call.
Discussion.
Go ahead, Bobby, roll call.
Mr. Stammis,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Presidio,
Aye.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Thank you.
Yes. Item number 8, 21-8000002, 603 Cypress Street, Robert Rasmussen.
Testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that the respondent failed to timely comply with the board's prior order within the time prescribed and to award the city $194 for the costs incurred in prosecuting this case.
Second.
Bobby, if there's no discussion, roll call.
Mr. Stammis,
Yes.
Presidio,
Aye.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Thank you, sir.
Ms.
Yes.
Wade? Yes, thank you.
We have 2 affidavits of compliance. We're going to do them both at the same time. First one is item 20-800000736, 1589 Starlight Cove, Riverside Partners. And the second one is 20-800000708, 816 North Jasmine Avenue, Joseph, or the 4th. Do I hear motion?
I move to accept the affidavit of compliance for both of those.
I second.
Bobby, or we can do that by voice vote.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And the final, thank you. The final item on the agenda today is a request for fine reduction. And before we hear that, Mr. Trask is going to remind us of the rules that apply to such case.
So I'm going to read to you Rule 5, Section 4 of the Code Enforcement Rules of Procedure that were adopted in 1989. Let me read it in its entirety. After a fine has been imposed by the board and within 60 days after the violation is brought into compliance, a violator may petition for reconsideration of a fine. The petition must be in writing, signed by the violator, and include a copy of the affidavit of compliance executed by the code inspector. The petition must include conclusive evidence showing extreme or undue hardship in the payment of the fine or preventing the violator to come into compliance within a time period established by the board's order. The board secretary shall schedule the petition to be considered, and the board shall make its determination based solely upon the written petition. The board may request information from the code inspector. The board secretary shall notify the violator by regular mail of the determination made by the board. No petition for reduction of fine will be considered prior to the board's acceptance of an affidavit of compliance. Under no circumstances may the amount of the fine be reduced below the costs of the action. Under no circumstances may the amount of the fine be reduced once a foreclosure action is instituted. Additionally, under no circumstances may the amount of the fine for a repeat violation be reduced. That was a complete reading of your Rule 5, Section 4.
Thank you. Is there anyone here on Zoom for this case?
We do not have anyone present on Zoom at this time.
Thank you. Board, you've been given in your packets the request and the backup materials by the city. Do you want to present anything, Beth?
I think I'm only allowed to answer questions if you
That's
have
correct.
them.
That's correct. She can't present. Only, you have to make your
Only what
determination based
she's already
solely upon the
presented,
written
okay?
petition.
No. Did anybody have any questions for Beth?
Yes, Beth, is this the only time the person's been out of compliance?
Yes, sir. This was the first and only case.
I think, Beth, has he been cooperative since the compliance or?
Thank you.
So honestly, I have had only dealings with his sister,
Sister.
Okay,
and I have not had any complaints since it came into compliance.
thank
So
you.
I've had no reason to go back out, but I've not received any more complaints. So I would assume it's still in compliance.
Thank you.
Each of you has received the evidence. You've heard the rules that we're to go by. Does anybody like to make a motion?
I move that the fine of $1,332 in case number 20-800-00708 be reduced to $422. The fine reduction will occur upon payment of the stated reduced amount if paid within 60 working days of this order. Failing to pay, the reduced fine amount will revert back to the original amount of $1,332.
Second. Roll call.
Question.
Questions? Yes.
Who is the second?
Me,
Okay, Mrs. Archer.
Thank you.
I question the $400 and 422. Only because this gentleman in his application indicates, and I believe it, that he has a major depression and that it was part of his depression that this took place. I can see where he's way back on everything and we don't want him to fail. So I would say $100 instead of 442.
He's got prosecution fees of 122.
Well, leave that in there because it's
So you're saying 222?
222 total.
I read the letter and I did feel for the person that nobody came forward even on the phone or on the Zoom today bothered me a little bit. We have a letter that says these were issues that he had, but I didn't find it supported by anything. That was my
We're
concern.
supposed, if he signs a document that is notarized, he's
It's
saying
not.
that all of those things are true. And that's your evidence.
Okay. That notary only testified that she signed, that it was his signature.
Yes,
She didn't say if it was true or not.
no, he did.
Yeah.
And having the notary do that.
Understood. So we have a motion currently that the fine be reduced to
He's making a
$100
motion.
plus the
$100.
prosecution
And
costs.
prosecution cost of 122.
But we had that motion wasn't, you had a previous motion.
I've already made a motion.
You made a previous motion. He's
Right.
making a motion to modify that.
I'm just discussing it.
Yes.
Right.
Do I hear anybody else would like to stick with the original
Comments?
motion or alter the motion?
I'd like to stay with
I
the
agree with
original.
altering the motion for what it's worth.
I'm sorry.
I agree with altering the motion for $100 plus prosecution cost,
Okay.
$222.
Are you seconding that?
I'm seconding the
Well,
$100
we-
plus 122.
We've got a
still have
motion
one
on the
on the
floor.
floor.
Unless the motion is
Was never-
amended, the
was
motion
it seconded?
stands.
Then I vote
The
against that
first
one.
motion seconded?
Yes, Mrs. Archer seconded that motion.
That part I missed, sorry.
Right. So we have a motion on the floor. If there is no amendments by Mr. Perfidio, then you need to act on that motion.
All righty.
Yeah.
So we're still back with Mr. Perfidio's motion.
Or did you want to amend it?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Just let's vote on it. And if it gets done, then we redo it.
And your motion was that it should
422.
be the 422, correct?
Yes, it's $300 plus $120 prosecution costs.
Thank you. Bobby, call for roll call, please.
Mr. Stammis,
No.
Mr. Perfidio,
Aye.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
No,
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Yes.
It carries.
We're to the point where we do new business or old business and public comments. We do need to stress that this will be the last meeting that's done on Zoom or by phone. In the future, folks will really need to come to our meetings if you want to make your presentation. Does the board and staff have anyone need to say anything? Seeing that there's no other business on the agenda, meeting is adjourned.
good job.